But there's a great story comes to mind. The early years of the Rebbe's Nasias, there was a young boy. I think he was from Bobov. He wasn't Chabad. He was in Crown Heights those days. They had a lot of different communities. Oh, someone's waiting. Wait, someone wants to come in. Let me admit and admit all. Okay. So this young boy, his name I believe was Avram Kiss. They interviewed him in Gem a while back. That's where I saw the story. So he wanted to buy a new suit. He wanted to buy a new suit. It was $20. He needed $20 to buy a new suit. So he got himself a job after school. He was like under bar mitzvah. He was like 12 years old. He wanted to buy a new suit. His parents couldn't afford it. So he started doing deliveries for the kosher grocery store, after his yeshiva ended in the afternoon. So the story goes that one of his customers was the Rebbe's mother, Rebbe Simchana. He would go to her house a few times a week, bring fresh groceries. And, he was saving up for his $20 suit. He was getting a quarter here, $1 here. And one time he came and the Rebbe was home visiting his mother. Like we know the Rebbe would visit his mother every day. And here I could see everyone. And the Rebbe invited him in. He told him to help him put the bags away, not just to deliver it, but to put the stuff in the shelves. And then the Rebbe gave him a $10 bill. He was so excited. He came out, and the Chassidim, who were like hanging around, like trying to observe something, they realized he came out all excited from the house. The Rebbe was in there. They said, no, what happened? So he told them. So one of the Chassidim offered him $20 for the $10 bill. So he gave the $10 bill. He got himself this $20. He comes home. His parents come home. They see he has a new suit. Like, what happened? How did you get it so quick? So he tells them the whole story. The father didn't like it. He wasn't a Chabad chassid, but he felt like Chassidim paid $20 for it. Maybe it wasn't such a respectful thing to do, to sell the Rebbe's dollar. Like, he didn't like it. So a few days later, it was a Yom Tif, and there was Kaishal Bracha, and he took his son to buy the Rebbe to get the wine. And when they passed by the Rebbe, he started to apologize to him. He said, "My son didn't know," and he gave away the $10 that you gave him. He sold it to Chassidim for $20, and the Rebbe shrugged it off. He made with his hand like he smiled at them, like, "What are you making a big deal about it? Like, whatever, And the line went on. He just smiled and shrugged it off. And again, there was thousands of people going by. Then a few weeks later, he comes by. He goes to deliver it to the Rebbe's mother, and again the Rebbe's there. And this time, like the last time, the Rebbe told him to bring in the bags and put them away, and the Rebbe gave him $10. And then the Rebbe smiled and gave him another $10 and said, you could sell to the guys outside. You could make everyone, so everyone, his father could be happy. He could be happy. The Bachrim outside could be happy. We see the Rebbe, it was like a second by Kaishal Bracha, but the Rebbe related to everybody. That was one of the most unique features, the greatness that you saw, and how he was really a shepherd for every single Jew. He cared about every Jew. He'd send shluchim and stories and this, turning over all these adventures for one Jew somewhere, for one moment somewhere. But no Jew was too little. The Rebbe said we can learn that from our enemies, actually. The value, preciousness, the infinite value of every single Jew, right? When then October 7 happened, they didn't make any distinction how religious the Jew was. They knew there's something about the Jew that's so deep, that's so powerful, that's godly, that doesn't make a difference. They had the same glee when they killed, this one Jew or another Jew. Everyone was equally important. And we can learn from our enemies in this, in such a negative sense, but we can learn how to. We should, when we reach out and when we have an opportunity to connect with any Jew, we could realize, how to appreciate every single neshama. A little bit the way the Rebbe looked at us. That's the biggest bracha we could have. If we could look at ourselves the way the Rebbe looked at us. I remember as a child, I was only around bar mitzvah age by Gimel Tammuz, younger than some of you here, most of you here. But I remember the teacher scaring us before. One time we were going by dollars. We used to go every now and then. I grew up in Kanai. The school was going, and the teacher gave us a whole scare speech. I don't know why, but he told us the Rebbe's going to look at your forehead. He's going to see all your Vedas, and you better do tshuva. I don't know what he was thinking, but that's what he drilled into us. And I remember being very scared in the line and very nervous and trying to squirm. And am I going to block my forehead or something? I'm like, what am I going to do? And then I remember when I actually came in front of the Rebbe, that my Rebbe was not saying the truth. I don't know why he said that. It was so positive. The Rebbe just gave you that moment, but all he felt was empowered. And the Rebbe looked at you like you could do so much more. You don't even know, you're so much greater than you think. And that was the only vibe you got. By the way, this is the way we had in Tanya a few days ago. It says Hashem wanted to make the world with minas adin, too much concealment. His presence would be totally hidden. But then he said it would be too challenging for people to navigate. So Hashem mixed in kindness and mercy. How is this expressed? He made certain holy individuals that in their presence, you don't have any doubts. It's like divine revelation, just being in their proximity. And by the way, that doesn't change now. Now you're in the Rebbe's presence. When you open up a work of the Rebbe's Torah, which we're going to do a little bit about in a moment, you actually have that. Okay, now I got the link. So I can actually try to do what I prepared.
Rabbi,
yeah.
what you were saying before, so I just saw I saw a story over Shabbos that a young guy from Hadar Torah, which is the Baal Tshuva Yeshiva, he went in front of the Rebbe for the first time, and he pulled his hat down over his eyes, and the Rebbe said to him, "Don't think that because you pull your hat down, I don't see into your soul."
Wow. Oh, so now I have you twice. I got to make this the second one of me. Hold on a second. How do I make myself? How do I make myself host?
You were made host.
No, but I'm my computer is not host. What if I? Oh, I have to. I know. I have to do it here. I got it. I'm not so good at Zoom and then my phone, but I think I understand. Do you hear? By the way, you hear everything double?
You have two computers there?
I'm going to switch from my phone to the. This is my phone. This is the computer. How do I make this guy host? Myself. Oh yeah. Host. And then there's another. Make host. Did it work?
Yeah.
Now, my first one has to leave. How do I?
Or hitting yourself.
Hitting myself? I'm trying to leave. I don't know.
Oh, phone, just hang up.
Give me a second. I'll figure this out. Yeah. So, you know what? Now I'm host here. I could just boot the other one, the other clone of me. Remove. I don't need to report him. Okay. Everyone hears me now? Everyone sees me? I'm really ready to start. By the way, I'm sharing my screen. This is actually, that's me getting Kaishal Bracha with my brother and my father. You can see what I'm sharing now? That's me. It's my older brother. That's my father. That's in 1991 sometime, I believe. Let's now I could pull up things. I got the whole computer had to restart. But everyone with me, everyone can hear me clear. Let me know now. If not, I'm going to try to pull up
Yes.
the
See,
actual. So there's two talks I wanted to. I wasn't sure if I could do both now. We
see,
had a
you're the
late
little one?
start. I want to talk a little bit about what a Rebbe is, or what it means to yearn for Mashiach. They're both include a beautiful sikha of the Rebbe, but let's see. You want to vote, or should we try? Let's start with what's a Rebbe, because the only thing is, I did this something I want to tweak it a little bit. It's from Yud Shvat, but we could use it now because the topic is the same. And I was looking it over. Some things I could change, but we don't have time. So let's do this. Okay. Everyone see what I'm sharing screen? It's a Parshas Boy class, so ignore that part. But the rest we're gonna bring about. We're gonna try to discuss a little bit based on a beautiful Sikha of the Rebbe. What is the meaning of a Rebbe? And here goes. Let me just pull up everyone. I could see some faces. At least we have a few people I could see. Yehuda Guber, welcome. And there's a Moshe, welcome. I don't see what you look like, but if you want to be so kind for a moment at least, let me see you so I could imagine afterwards. I could try to keep remembering what you look like. Okay. I don't know. How's it by Rabbi Smith? People don't do faces? Okay. Whatever. I told you, you guys are older than me. Do whatever you want. I just do better if I see people. I can see your eyes if you understand something or not. Okay, let's do this. So let's discuss. Let's start off with, we know in mitzvahs, I'm over explaining, by the way. You could let me know. I could go a little quicker, but I'm used to, like you said, Adar Torah. So I have such a program in Miami. I'm involved in such a yeshiva. So a lot of these things I try to explain a lot in the English and so on, but let me know. So there's different kind of mitzvahs. Most mitzvahs you need to do in person, right? Someone cannot put on tefillin for you. Someone cannot hear Megillah for you. He could read it for you, but you have to hear it. Someone cannot eat matzah for you. Someone cannot shake lulav for you. And maror, yeah, that's one we would have liked if someone could do for you maybe some years. But you can't. You can't have someone eat it for you, right? But then there are some mitzvahs that you could actually have someone else do for you. Like burning the chametz or a bris. Most people don't do their own bris or their own child's bris. They have a male do it. I remember my father used to send me to burn the chametz, or like weddings, kiddushin. You could technically be in Australia and you could send somebody to get married by 770 for you. And it just says Harei Mekudeshes LePloini, Ben Ploini, who's somewhere else, and it would work. Not recommended, by the way. Very not good way to start a marriage. Like, oh, I'm too busy golfing, so I'll send someone else to be my shliach for the actual wedding. But illegally could work. It's pretty shocking. You could even have two men under the chuppah. Could get even more funny. But it could be a shliach. It could be a shliach. You could do it. So some mitzvahs you could. A get, we always use a shliach. Okay. I'm not going to go into this now, but there's some Rishonim connect this to the different texts of the blessings. Sometimes we say a bracha on the mitzvah itself, like al bir chametz, not, and sometimes we say Asher Kedishon to do it, because this certain mitzvahs, it's the mitzvah that has to be done. It doesn't have to be you that does it. So that's why, again, there's a lot of systems in the Rishonim and theories about how to explain when you should say this kind of bracha, when this is a whole Alter Rebbe about it. But But what I want to bring out is there's two kinds of mitzvahs. Some of them you could do through a shliach. And the first question is, what's the source for this concept? How do we know that some mitzvahs you could actually use someone else to do? It's a big novelty. You should realize it's a strange thing. Mitzvahs are, we say it's the connections between us and Hashem, and it's like all about like how do we know that you could actually have someone could do the mitzvah and it's you get the credit, you get the mitzvah, and someone else did the act. So the Gemara discusses this. But where do we know that someone shliach, their agent, actually could legally represent you for certain mitzvahs? Shenemar b'shachatu oisei kol kahal das Yisrael bein ha'abayim. Says by the Korban Pesach that the entire community, like the congregation, will all slaughter their offering. The Gemara right away interrupts, objects. That's outrageous. What do you mean? The whole community slaughters the Korban Pesach? That's not feasible. How could everyone hold the knife and the cow? And there's a few. How many people could be involved already? Only one person could slaughter. Ella mikan so rather, you see from this verse that there's a concept that someone could represent everyone else, that one person could actually sometimes legally and spiritually be the representative of other Jews. So this is the source the Gemara presents, B'shluchai shel Adam K'maisai. I'm assuming most of you heard of this concept. There's a lot of different ways and discussions about how exactly this works, the degrees of how much he represents it, but let's continue. Okay. Then we said the source is the pasuk in Parshas Boy. The shachatu oisai, koil kahal das yisrael ben arbaim. Since it says the entire community, the whole congregation, the whole assembly will slaughter it, and that's not realistic. This is how we know that it has to mean that one person does it, but it's like everyone did it. Okay. Which leads us to the next question. We can never get rid of the questions. As soon as we answer one, we have a new question. Why such a random source? The Torah is the infinite wisdom of Hashem. Everything is calculated. Everything is infinitely precise. There's layers and layers and layers of significance and meaning and reasons to every detail in the Torah. For sure, Hashem could have arranged to teach you this concept that applies all throughout Judaism, right? It applies by bris, applies by marriage, applies by... So why do we learn this concept why did Hashem, the Torah, choose to teach it to us in connection with Korban Pesach? There must be a deeper significance to this. That's question number one now. Number two, how does this concept even work? How could somebody else's action be attributed to someone else? What's the legal mechanism? How can someone do my mitzvah? Right? Einstein used to like to talk about like the spooky action at a distance. Sometimes you have these forces, gravity and this and that, things that, right? So how could somebody else is doing it and it's like I did the mitzvah? Everyone with me? Am I going too fast or slow? Whoever's faces I see, I'm going to go by your response. That's the catch. If you don't show your face, I don't know if you're nodding or giving me a thumbs up, but we will see whoever we appreciate. Okay, I'm assuming everyone's with me. So to answer this, we're going to look like we're going a little ADHD now, but we're going to tie everything in together. Going to switch to another topic. The beginning of the whole Exodus starts the scene by the famous scene by the burning bush. Hashem tells Moshe, Moshe's arguing with Hashem, Mi anochi, ki elech al pareh. Want me to go tell Pareh, let the people go? Who am I? I should be the one to run the Exodus? I should go to Pareh? Who am I to go to Pareh and to take the Jews out? Choose someone else. A famous scene that Rashi describes for 7 days. They were arguing. What's with this? These words of Moshe. It's not a game, right? My incredible humility is what makes me superior to everyone else. When it says we had in the parsha 2-3 weeks ago, the Torah testifies that Moshe was really was truly the most humble person ever. But what is how do you explain this? Hashem, the creator of the world, who knows you and knows everybody better than we know ourselves. He said he thinks it's a good idea for you to be the one to go take the Jews out of Egypt. Who are you to argue with that? How can Moshe oppose that? The Jews are suffering in Egypt, and Moshe is saying, "Mi anaychi, who am I?" It's not like Moshe was the real deal. Sometimes, by Sheva Brachas, you ever seen that? When they call on somebody, say a few words like, I don't know why they asked me to speak. Then he goes on to give a beautiful drasha that he prepared, right? So they're playing a game. It's okay. We're all human. But Moshe was the real deal. It's not a game. Who is he telling? Who am I? Hashem knows you. And he knows that Hashem knows. And if Hashem thinks it's a good idea, who are you to argue? We have to understand there must be something deeper. Okay, so let's put this on the burner as well. Torah Lashon Eira. The Rebbe brings this all the time whenever we talk about the parsha or any concept in Torah. The Rebbe would make sure that before we move on, the main thing in Torah is always the takeaway. The definition of the word Torah, it comes from the Maral of Prague's introduction and other sources as well. They bring it that the word Torah means Hairah, guidance, teaching, meaningful, personal, relevant lesson for every individual Jew. So whenever you learn anything in Torah, you have to ask yourself, what am I walking away with? How is this teaching me something that's going to make a difference in my life practically? So important. So let's put that there as well. What are we going to learn from this? Whatever we're talking about. That's the big question. Okay. So this, we don't have to focus on so much now, but this is the famous Shalah says that Yishvat, or he says that all the Yom Tovim are always connected to the parsha next to it, and Yishvat is always next to Parshas Boy. So we want to know the connection for that. And the last question, this is the main question again. Today is Gimel Tammuz, but I'm using this discussion from another parsha. What exactly is a Rebbe? What is the definition of a Rebbe? A charismatic leader, a tzaddik, some holy rabbi, a mystic, all of the above, more than all of the above. It's very hard to pinpoint exactly what is a Rebbe, a great rabbi. We had a lot of great rabbis. Is every great rabbi a Rebbe? Is every tzaddik a Rebbe? A holy rabbi? Kairach told Moshe Rabbeinu, all the people are holy, right? That's the parsha we read yesterday. What is exactly the definition of a Rebbe? Now we get to the meat and potatoes, I guess, of what we really want to build up to discuss. But so before we tie all this in, let's do a quick recap of the different questions we pointed out. Okay, so whoever came in middle, you missed some of the first points. So why is shlichus derived from Korban Pesach? Such a random source. The concept that a Jew could do something for someone else. How exactly does shlichus work? What's the mechanism? How could actually somebody do something and it's attributed to you? Number 3, what's Moshe's humility? Mi anoichi. What kind of game is that? Who are you to argue with Hashem? He says Hashem feels, the creator of the world feels that you're the best one. You should go take the Jews out of Egypt. And you start saying humility now? Like that's humility? Like I don't know if I'm the one, you might be wrong. Like what? It seems arrogant. What's the Torah's eternal practical message to me? Okay, we want to know the connection between Parshas Boy and Yitzchok, which is a side point for us. And what exactly is a Rebbe? That's a good question always, especially on Gimel Tammuz. When it's a day of Iskashos, a day we want to reflect on our relationship with the Rebbe. What does it mean? How it's can't be superficial anymore. So let's try to wrap this and tie this up together. So first of all, how do Jews answer a question? Of course. Another question. Why? Why not? Okay. So let's start with another little anecdote. This is the beginning of the answer, but I want to share another beautiful insight on this anecdote in the Gemara. The most common word in the Torah, not everyone together, is of course S, right? Aleph to Taf. No, this is it's actually a very tough word to translate. It's some kind of pointer, like who did what to who. It could also mean sometimes two. It could mean it's like a connecting word, but you have it everywhere, all over the Torah. The most common word by far, hands down. So the Talmud in Psachim, page 22b, says, Tanya. We learned in Abraisa, Shimon Suni, Hayadoidish Kol Essen Shebetoida. Shimon Suni was a great Tana. He had a whole koilel, a whole yeshiva, and he had a whole. They were studying, going through the Torah and expounding every single S. There's no such thing as an extra letter in the Torah or word. Forget about, right? For sure, there's a message, there's a meaning, and him with his students and his whole yeshiva, they were going through every single word S in the Torah, and they were explaining how it's not redundant, and it comes to add something you would not know. Let's do some examples. Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim ve'es haaretz. Right? The first S of the Torah, the first two. What does Rashi say? It includes all the really this first opening utterance of Hashem, or the phrase of the Torah, the opening phrase of the Torah, is really the creation of everything. Es hashamayim means the heavens and everything in the universe, in the spiritual realm. Ve'es haaretz is the earth and all everything that exists, all the species and everything. Everything was really created with that phrase. And then the rest of the 9 phrases, the next 6 days, Hashem was crystallizing and solidifying all these creations into the distinct forms and final forms and so on, finishing it up and making them like touching them up. But everything was really created. The S includes everything in the heavens, and the Es Haaretz includes everything in the earth. This is what Rashi says on these words. Are you raising your hand?
Rabbi.
Yeah.
Well, what about S versus ace?
So that has to do with the vowels next to it and the letters next to it. Not for this. It's not beyond the scope of this discussion, but it makes no difference for this point. They're both forms of S. It just depends on which sounds you have next to it, which vowels and which kind of syllables that will affect when you say ace and S. But it means the same. It has the same function grammatically. Another famous example. Kaved es avicha v'esimecha. Honor your parents, right? Respect your parents. They passed school without Google. Kaved es avicha v'esimecha. So what does this come to add? What do we have here? Remember when self-respect and respect for elders was 2 different things? Okay, they got older here. Okay, but what does the Gemara say? It's actually a lot of details here. It includes older brother, that's famous, older siblings or older brother specifically. Discussion about that. It includes in-laws, father-in-law, mother-in-law. It includes grandparents. The S's over here are loaded. It's not just saying honor your father and your mother. It includes older sibling, in-law, grandparents, and so on. A lot of discussion, even on halacha, what you learn from it. So it's another example. This S is not just, something extra. Continues the Gemara, Kim and Shegia. They got to Devarim chapter 10. Les Hashem Elokecha Tira. The phrase, you should have fear for Hashem, reverence for Hashem. It says S, Hashem Elokecha Tira. Pidish. He canceled the whole project. He shut it down. Forget it. We're not doing it. How could you add anyone to God? You're supposed to have fear of God. You can't combine. You can't include anyone there. S always is. You always explain how it includes something, but we're talking about having reverence for God. You can't include anybody there. So Amr loy Talmidav. So the student said, "But Rebbe, call us in shadarashta mate hey aleya." What's going to be with all those S's, hundreds and hundreds of S's that we expounded? What about the whole project? We're just going to cancel it now? My translations are a little loose. Amar lahem, so he told them, Kishem shekibalti schar al adrisha, just like you received reward for expounding it, kach ani mekabel schar al aprisha. So now we'll be rewarded for canceling it. That's the right thing to do. Because how could you equate anyone with God? So, sorry, but got to cancel the project. Ad sheba Rabbi Akiva, the Gemara continues, B'dorash. Until Rabbi Akiva came along and he expounded. Es Hashem Elokecha tira, that you should serve and like you should have reverence and fear towards Hashem your God. L'rabbis talmidei chachamim. It comes to include true Torah sages. Real talmidei chachamim, you have to have reverence for them along with Hashem. Like that's what it's including. Just like you have to have reverence for them, for Hashem, you also have to have reverence for a true Torah scholar. This is what the Gemara says over there in Psachim. Now, it looks like Rabbi Akiva came along and saved the project. He's the hero of this anecdote. Shimon Amsuni had a great kaila, all the students, but they got stuck and they had to cancel the whole project. And Rabbi Akiva saved the day. He was so great. He was the hero. That's what it looks like. But there's a beautiful Hasidic interpretation over here. What really was going on in this story. It's not how you read it. You see, what happened is Shimon Amsuni had this whole project going on for years, and they're writing, publishing books and others. Who knows what it looked like? But then when it came to this phrase, you have to love, have reverence for Hashem, he's like, let's stop the whole thing. And the student said, what about everything we did? It made no difference to him. There was no ego whatsoever. It's like my great project. It was so about truth. I'm just here to serve Hashem, to try to understand Hashem's wisdom, Hashem's communicated words. That's all I'm here for. It's not about me, what are people going to say about my project, my accomplishments, my dream. There was no ego whatsoever. When Rabbi Akiva saw Shimon Amsuni's reaction, there could be a rabbi who didn't just learn Torah, but he refined himself through internalizing Torah to such an extent that there's no ego at all. He's just a conduit for whatever Hashem wants. There was not even a trace of it. It made no difference to him to continue something he worked on for 20 years. He's just ready to cancel it without even any hesitations. The students are like having a hard time, and he's like, nah, makes no difference to me. It's the same as before. It was like whatever reward we're getting now. Like it's not about what people are going to say, anything. He didn't care at all. He was just there for Hashem. Rabbi Akiva said, wow, if there exist students like that, if there exist rabbis like that, then you could include them with God. Because they don't have their own identity. Their whole life, they transcended their ego, and now they're just there. Hashem just shines through them. Such a person, you should have reverence because they are a revelation of godliness. That's what they are. So you see the twist in the story? It's not, Rabbi Akiva is not the hero. He saw Shimon Amsuni. This inspired him so much. By the way, is this blocking anyone? Let me shrink this. Okay. Everyone with me? It's a beautiful word. While we're speaking of humility. True humility, this I love, this one I like, is not thinking less of yourself. It is thinking of yourself less. That's what we call bittul chassidus. You're not focused on yourself, what people think of me, what's in it for me. You transcended that. You're able to really be there for Hashem. And then you could also be there for another person in a genuine way, without any selfish agendas. Now let's go back to the burning bush dialogue. Let's try to explain it. We had a question, right? Moshe is telling Hashem, Mi anochi, who am I? That I should go to Paro, v'chiyotzias b'nei Yisrael mitzrayim. We said, what kind of question is that? Oh, I'm sorry. It's misplaced humility, right? What is this? It's arrogance. He's arguing with Hashem. Hashem feels you're qualified. And you say, I don't know, maybe you made a mistake. There must be something deeper. Let's go back even earlier. Another 200 years before. When Yaakov is coming down to Mitzrayim, Hashem tells Yaakov, don't be afraid to go down to Egypt. I myself will go down with you to Egypt. I myself will also bring you back up out of it. Look at the words. Anoichi eid imcha Mitzrayim. Hashem told Yaakov when he's going down to Mitzrayim, Anoichi, I, Hashem, I'm going down with you to Egypt, so don't be afraid. And I will take you out of there. So Moshe is telling Hashem, Mi anoichi. How could you ask me to take the Jews out of Egypt? You're the one who has to take them out. You said you're going to do it. I can't represent you. I can't be in your place. That's not what you told Jacob. It's not going to be fulfilling the promise. You said you're going to take them out. It's a whole other thing. He's arguing that it's not going to work. It's not, Hashem has to take them out. Who am I? I'm a person. What did Hashem tell him? Ayomer ki eya imach. I will be with you. And then he said, this will be the sign that I sent you. Anoichi. You're going to be a shliach of Anoichi. He was communicating to Moshe that Moshe obviously was not realizing this, but he told Moshe, you reached a level that you could represent Hashem. That's like Shimon Amsuni's story. That since you don't have any of your own ego, you transcended all your selfishness agendas, you worked on yourself so much, you are a candidate, you're qualified. You could, when you do it, it's like Hashem did it. This is the real concept of shlichus. He's Hashem's shliach, the first shliach, to take the Jews out, and it's like Hashem did it. Because Moshe had no identity of his own. He was just God shining through him. That's a fulfillment of Anoichi. Right? We see in Agadah. We have a whole phrase in Agadah. Ani v'loi malach, ani v'loi sarav, ani v'loi shliach, ani v'loi acher. But wasn't Moshe there? It wasn't. It wasn't a contradiction to this, that it was just Hashem. Because Moshe had zero of himself present. There was no self-consciousness at all. It was all Hashem just shone through him. It was just a conduit. This is the greatest praise of Moshe, that he did not have his own identity, no sense of selfish agendas, no unhealthy self-consciousness. It was just a conduit for Hashem. Right? Good luck finding leaders like that. It's all about themselves, right? Their own honor or recognition or fame or whatever, right? So different, such a contrast to Torah's views. There's a word. Why is Moshe's name not mentioned in the Pesach Haggadah? This is the real reason. Because it wasn't Moshe. It is mentioned once, by the way, but yeah, and then by Aminu B'Hashem and Moshe Av that we have, and even that is basically putting him with Hashem. Why? Because he reached a level where it was not about him. He didn't feel himself. He didn't sense himself. It was none of his own identity. He was totally a conduit for Hashem. His whole life was just Hashem's will has to happen through me. Hashem's light has to shine through me. Hashem's mission has to be fulfilled through me. What could I do? It was nothing about himself in a beautiful, healthy way. He just totally connected to Hashem. This is a tzaddik. This is a Rebbe. There's actually a humorous answer to this question. I heard from one of my principals, Notion Parkway. He said that why is Moshe's name not mentioned? Because the first year no one needed Haggadah, because every Jew was actually in Egypt. Who had to make Haggadah for their family? Only Moshe Rabbeinu, because his wife and 2 kids were actually missed the Exodus. So when Moshe Rabbeinu made Haggadah for them, he was the first one to make. Obviously, he didn't stress himself so much, It was basic humility. So that's why it doesn't have him so much. If anyone else would have made it, they would have put Moshe a lot more. But the deeper insight is what we're sharing now. That this is what a real tzaddik is, a real Talmid Chacham. Not every time you say someone, someone who knows a lot more Torah than you, every rabbi or everyone who knows has some Torah knowledge is considered this level of being a conduit for Hashem and no ego whatsoever. But this is the meaning of what a Rebbe is. There's no selfish agendas, right? There's no, just a pure conduit for Hashem's light. This is anyone who had any interaction with the Rebbe. I shared a little bit before in the beginning while we were waiting to get set up, right? The Rebbe is famous for uplifting and inspiring every Jew, utilizing every interaction to empower and electrify his Chassidim. How did it happen? It was just because it was the way Hashem looked at you, the way Hashem believes in you. That's what the Rebbe gave us a taste of. In his presence, you sensed how Hashem looks at you, right? How Hashem feels about you. And this you could testify. Now let's move a little further. This is the famous thing that Rebbe brings in Data Tetzaveh, the Kunei Zohar, that there's a concept of Yispashtrusei de Moshe b'chol dori v'dori, chol tzadik v'tzadik. It's not, Moshe Rabbeinu is not just a one-time phenomena. Every generation, every real tzaddik is a continuation of Moshe Rabbeinu. And the Tanya takes this even more relevant. Yeah, I think we're going to have to wrap up with this part. How is this tzaddik talk even relevant to me? What about me, right? We said it has to have a meaningful message to me. And we also said how everyone has a shlichus, right? So what's the message for me? How can I relate to this? This seems like very high level stuff. So the Alter Rebbe Tanya brings another Gemara from Daf Lamed Gimel Brachas Amud Beit 33b. Omer Rabbi Chanina, Hakol b'dei Shemayim chutz miYireh Shemayim. Everything is in the hands of heaven. That means it's orchestrated by Hashem. You're not in control. Besides fear of heaven, right? When it comes to your moral choices, Hashem gives you free will. When you have a chance to submit yourself to Hashem or not. Shenemar. And it says, how do we learn this? What's the source? It stays in the verse. I see. As it says, what is Hashem asking you? All he asks that you fear him. So you see, everything else is not our job. Our job is just to submit ourselves to Hashem when we have these moral choices. But everything else, Hashem is not asking you to he's not really asking you to run anything in your life. And Hashem is running everything. So the Gemara says, it seems very funny, all he's asking you is to have reverence and real Yireh Shemayim. Like as if that's something small. Atu Yireh Milsa Zetrasi. Is the fear of heaven so simple? It's the first thing in Shulchan Aruch, right? Place Hashem before you. To really live with that reality that you're in the presence of Hashem all the time, and that your choices and your schedule and your behavior should reflect this and express this reality. That's not easy. Why is the Talmud implying like that's all you have to do, and that's all Hashem's asking for you? What are you complaining for, right? The Gemara asks, "Atu Yireh Shemayim Milsa Detrasi." Is fear of heaven such a small matter? So the Gemara's response is very, very compelling. Yes. Legabe Moshe Milsa Detrasihi. Moshe was the one talking here. V'atei Yisrael ma v'ayalekecha shel mi'imach is Moshe Rabbeinu's words. And for Moshe, great tzaddik, a great high-level spiritual being like Moshe Rabbeinu, it's not a big deal to have Yireh Shemayim. Because he saw the reality of Hashem creating everything. He was in touch with that. So what's the big deal? To live with that. So the Tanya says, that's the Gemara. But the Tanya says, what kind of answer is that? Moshe is not talking to himself. He's talking to us. The L'chayra Eina Muvan Atiritz. What kind of answer is this? The Hashayel Me'imachzi. That what is he asking from you? What's the Gemara answering? That for Moshe, it's achievable, it's feasible, it's realistic, because he could actually have that awareness of being in Hashem's presence for real easily. It's not such a big deal. But how does that help for us? Ella inyan hu the Alter Rebbe says ki kol nefesh v'nefesh beis Yisrael yesh ma b'mchinas Moshe Rabbeinu alav hashalom. Every single soul, everyone here, wherever you are, wherever we find ourselves, right? No matter what, we can never change this reality. We have in our soul, at our core, we have the level of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's why Kiyum Yeshiva Royim, he's one of the 7 shepherds. We have Moshe inside of us. Everything is relevant to us. That's what, by the way, the message, what you have to reflect Gimel Tammuz is. Now we're the continuation of whatever the Rebbe's plan is. The Rebbe said he gave it over to us, and he said we can't count on him, and this is what they're put in our hands. Chavches Nisan, famous for bringing. We have to do it, and we have it inside of us. And this is why also was the concept of shlichus, because we all have that ability to be bottled, to be so nullified. This is the first question, one of the first questions we asked, right? Moshe was the first and ultimate shliach. Since we have a spark of Moshe, we can also be transparent and be a shliach for another Jew's mitzvah. Okay. Yeah, there's 3 minutes left. So what I'm gonna, instead of doing anything more, I think we should just recap what we learned. What do I have over here? Oh, this is also what Pesach is all about. We said the source is Pesach, right? You can't have your chance for time without Pesach. How do you liberate yourself? How do you really have freedom? How do we make sure we're not slaves to all the traumas and things we go through in life that affects us, and it really makes we think we're making choices, but really we're being subconsciously we're so impacted by everything we go through in our life. How do we really be free? How are we not a prisoner to the different things we go through in our life? So how did the whole story of the Exodus start? What's real freedom? When you realize what Yosef told his brothers, you didn't send me here. You didn't sell me here. I was sent here by Hashem for a mission. That perspective, that I'm a shliach of Hashem. In any situation and circumstance you find yourself, that's a secret of not becoming a slave to whatever you go through, but instead always being on top of the situation, like Yosef. He's the one cheering up his brothers and always rising to the top. Despite he could have been the biggest victim with all the suffering he went through. He could have been a miserable, kvetchy victim, but yet he's famous for being so cheerful, right? So this is the message, that we're all shluchim of Hashem. This is the takeaway. We're all shluchim, and we're not, whatever we experience in life, we're not like being sold. We're not being sent somewhere, against the plan. It's part of Hashem's plan. We have the power to deal with it, and somehow we have a mission here that's important for the whole history, the whole purpose, the whole goal of creation, Mashiach, and so on. It depends on our doing our mission, and our perspective will help us do that. Okay, I hope we had some insight into the idea of what a Rebbe is, shlichus means, and some interesting gemaras that we analyzed. And everyone should have a meaningful day. Hopefully this day, the Rebbe once said that it's the beginning of the redemption. The Rebbe was talking about the previous Rebbe, that it looked like the Rebbe was concealed, but it turned out, because he was sent into exile, his father-in-law, in 1927, after the arrest, and it looked like things got worse. But later they found out it was the beginning of the redemption, because they really wanted to kill him, Rahman al-Islam. And then they sent him to exile, and then they were able to free him. And then a week and 10 days later, he got out. So the Rebbe said, the day Gimel Tammuz, even if it looks like things are getting darker and more concealment and worse, it's actually the beginning of the redemption. So let's hope we'll have the conclusion of the redemption. Today we should bring with the Rebbe. All right, everyone, have a great, meaningful day. Thank you for joining.
Should ask if anybody has any questions.
Sure. You don't have to ask. You raise your hand, or however you get my attention. I might not have the answers, but you could have the questions. Okay. Have a great day.
Thank you, Rebbe.
Thank you,
Thank
Rabbi.
you. Have a great day. Okay. I go to
Okay.
talk. How do I end this now? Have to end this first. Make this bigger. End. Okay. I go to talk. Thank you for joining.